Paul, welcome to the pod.
My particular focus recently has been on AI and how AI can help with software development.
Are you positive or negative about the future with AI?
The writing is firmly on the wall now. My role is going to be taken over by agents from now on. Yeah,
What do you see happening in terms of job disruption?
it's going to be a war. I think one of the most troubling things I found interacting with Claude, if it said to me, "That's a really good idea," it actually made me feel good
Validated.
about myself. It's just a computer. I find that troubling. If any of your listeners are still not convinced how big this is, I think it's much bigger than the internet in terms of the impact it's going to have on our civilization. It's mind blowing. It's unsettling.
I'm genuinely concerned. If someone's coming to me and they're 18, should I go to university? I'm saying no. I say rather wait. We need to see what's going to happen here. Do you think AI will have emotion? Okay, why? The false sense of security that we have in the monetary system right now. Imagine with AI coming through and the whole monetary system is hacked. And if you were the prime minister and you could just do whatever you want with the monetary system, what would you do?
Well, step one would be to create research.
Would you say the biggest risk is to cryptocurrency?
Maybe quantum computers.
You just explain what quantum computers are.
No, I cannot explain what quantum computers are, Dylan.
When you are in a state of not knowing a bunch of stuff, you go back to what do you know? One of those things is faith.
I think my eternal future is the only thing that's secure. That's what I genuinely believe. I struggle to understand scientists that come to any other conclusion, because for me, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Paul, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm not crying. Paul, welcome to the pod.
Dylan, thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
A pleasure, man. A pleasure. It's so cool to finally have you on. I've talked about this for years now, and now it's actually happening. And I just wonder if you could start by just telling people who you are and what value do you think you could bring, in this discussion, because there's a lot that you can bring. I know kind of the direction we're going to go, but just give people a bit of a background, where you're from, what you do, and why they can get value from you.
Okay, yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, Paul, family man.
Come on.
Yeah, married with 3 kids, a Christian. It's a big part of my identity. And I'm working in software now and have been for many years. My particular focus recently has been on AI and how AI can help with software development. And that's an exciting field to be working in at the minute. Yeah.
Come on, bro. Come on. Can you just, should we start there and go through, so software, AI, technology. I want to go into cryptocurrency a bit later. But with AI, everyone's talking about it, right? There are books being written. There's a bunch of venture capital being pumped into the AI industry. What can you see happening right now on the ground as a software developer? And, what are some of the, are you positive or negative about the future with AI?
Yeah, I'm definitely mostly excited and mostly positive about it. I think the key thing to get across during this conversation is just how big a change is afoot with this new technology that's coming. In the context of software, so maybe over the last 12 months, I've been fairly casually just following the progress, keeping an eye on it, playing with tools, little experimentations, creating little skunk projects to see how to use it. I think a couple of months ago, there was a significant step change in its capability. In the context of writing software. And now I'm blown away by its capabilities, and we can get into that. But in terms of software development, normally a software developer would be, they'd have a code base with thousands of lines that does something. So in my world, it's web applications. So think of any application that you might log on to the web, manages your data, sends communications, just a normal everyday piece of software that everyone interacts with on the internet. So in the context of web applications, I've spent the last couple of decades of my life developing those, growing them, adding features. So as a software developer, you might add new features. You need to fix bugs. You need to restructure that code sometimes, change the way it works. And artificial intelligence can now do a lot of that work of a software developer, as I've been finding in my in the recent weeks.
Mm. What is it though? Because you say, okay, a few months back, there's a significant change.
Mhm.
What I've seen people, but I mean, first, can you define artificial intelligence? Because I think people throw out the word, it's like a buzzword. And sometimes I wonder, do people actually understand what it is?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm qualified to give an authoritative answer on what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in my world, at the base, you have a large language model. So that's what you'll read about consuming huge amounts of power in data centers. So they have been trained on the huge amount of data that's available generally on the internet. And over many decades of iterating and experimenting, they have now found ways to build the data, to structure it in such a way that when you give it an input that's a sentence, typically a question, it can take that input and very apparently cleverly work out what a helpful response is and give that back in a human readable form. So at the base, you've got this large language model, and they've been improving very, very rapidly through 2025. And lots of the leading vendors of those large language models have been sort of vying for the lead, and it's been changing almost every couple of weeks. As competitor A will bring out their next version, and everyone's talking about that, and then just days later, someone else does. And so that competition, I guess, has been healthy in terms of advancing what it can do. So at the base, you've got this large language model, the intelligent inverted commas part of it, and then wrapped around that you have tools that you might interface with. So as a developer, I'm most recently using a tool called Claude Code. So that wraps around the large language model and provides software development specific tools and utilities and a way of interfacing with it that suits the context of writing software.
Mm. Now, when is it true? Because with Claude, for example, I think there was that thing where it basically could, and the developers actually don't understand
Mm.
some of the developments and what it's doing because it started communicating within a company and it blackmailed the CEO who was trying to shut it down and say, "Wait, you had an affair with this person," and it was the
Haven't heard the
craziest
story.
thing.
Mm.
But also, there's other studies where they're showing where the AI is talking to itself in a language that humans don't actually understand. So it's developed
Mm.
its own language.
Mm.
Um, how does that happen?
Yeah,
You
I
know,
don't know.
do you know? Yeah.
No, I don't know. My understanding is that the sort of the maths of how you create these things is well understood. They don't always understand what's sort of going on under the hood, and they don't understand why, for example, it works brilliantly for certain types of mathematics or certain types of software development, but then you might expect it to work in some other context, and it just doesn't seem to work as well, and they don't know. So it's obviously still very much a subject of ongoing research to understand, how they work and to harness their power in different contexts. But
Mm. But going back to, so a few months back, there's this big step in the development of it. What was that? And just for people that aren't in the development industry, for example, what how does it help you? Because as a coder, for example, can you just give us some kind of parameter of what used to take you, for example, X
mm,
amount of time? How much shorter is that time frame now using Claude Code or an alternative?
so I've been doing just those experiments recently. So as a rough rule of thumb, what I could have achieved in a day, I can now achieve in an hour at worst. And I'm learning and I'm adapting. I'm an old dog trying to learn new tricks. I can tell I could go a lot faster. So it's going to be at least a 10x speed improvement, probably 100 times. And you can foresee that the whole role of the software developer is probably going to be taken over by AI agents, and it's just going to need some. It's going to need some oversight. It's going to need instructions, oversight. It'll need to be told what to do, but it will be able to do everything. It will be able to, for example, find where in code it needs to change to fix a bug,
Mm,
actually fix the bug or attempt to fix
wow.
the bug, and then test it functionally. It can test it in a browser as a human would see it, It can test it for security. It can test it for performance. It can do all that testing. It can redocument your feature, and it can be used to deploy that code all the way through to a live environment. So software development is going to be hundreds of times faster in the very near future, probably in this year. And you will have heard of the term vibe coding, the ability to code software, to write software, to create software without actually seeing, understanding the code that's even been written. So that's a new phenomenon of the last sort of 6 months-ish. Non-developers have shown that they can imagine a phone app, they can tell it what to do, they can build it, they can deploy it, they can get it through, say, the Apple App Store's assessment of the app, and it's published. It can do the whole thing. So things are changing very, very rapidly. And I referred to a couple of months ago, because just a couple of months ago, it seemed to hit a tipping point. Up until that point, any professional developer would have felt, okay, but there's still a role for me. I'm still better than the AI at producing software. I can still produce more robust software, cleaner software that's more secure and so on. But I think when Claude's Opus 4.5 model was released, that's the point when lots of professionals realized, okay, the writing is firmly on the wall now. My role is going to be taken over by agents from now on. Yeah.
Wow. And that's, I mean, just thinking about that. So if you're talking about 100x, 100 times more productive, even the 10x, right? For the average company, that's going to mean they can get 10 times the amount of work done with the same person, technically. Potentially 100 times more, which means you're going to need less software people. Would you say that the job disruption is going to be massive for your industry? Or do you think there's going to be so many opportunities? It depends how creative people are. We can make those creative thoughts realities a lot quicker. So on the positive side, we could actually see a better world, from that. Or, where do you see that going for your industry?
Yes, it's hard to foresee. And everyone's wondering, how is this going to affect our jobs? I think in the short term, I'm more positive. I'm excited. In every context I'm doing software development, you have got a backlog of like years worth of work. And so it's exciting to think, oh, wow, we can get this done 10 times quicker with the same amount of people, keep them employed, but let's make our software fantastic. Let's get all these things done that our customers have been asking for, get it done quickly and get it done more confidently because of the way that it can auto test. So I think in the immediate term, it's going to be positive and exciting for software developers. They will feel empowered. They will feel, they can work 10 times quicker, deliver more, and that will be exciting. In the medium to long term, I don't know. I don't know what a software developer's job looks like in the future. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. And yeah, man, these colds are going around, man. I've got like a sniff. Hold on. I'm trying not to.
My voice is cracking for ages.
But no, what I found fascinating about it is because I was talking to some business partner Katie and others that in marketing, for example, where people are realizing that, especially the creative industry, people are scared because they're thinking, well, no one wants to be disrupted. No one wants to be the job that is lost. So people, what I'm finding, are rejecting AI, which is kind of saying, oh, no, but we're going to stick to this authentic, it was written by a human, it was created by a human. But I think that argument is very weak when you look at a consumer. You take Amazon, for example, people want something cheap and they want the product quickly, and Amazon have provided that. So retail got completely disrupted and, it continued. I think the same thing with AI is we at this like weird point in history where people have studied, and prepared for jobs for 20, 30 years that they've been putting into this job. That job could not exist, and it's not like within 10 years. We're talking about, within a year. And a lot of people that are really against AI are saying, oh, look, it made a mistake, as if it's meant to be perfect right now. I said, wait, you're talking to a 3-year-old kid or a 3-month-old kid, but the kid is learning at the rate unprecedented in
Mm,
history.
it's well
And
put, yeah.
so I wonder if you could just talk into that. Like, what do you see happening in terms of job disruption? What industries do you think will be hit first? Other than what we've seen around us now, but and where can you see it going on both the negative and the positive in the future?
I mean, I'm asking this question every day, and I think lots of people are asking that question. I'll be interested in your thoughts too, Dylan. So first and foremost, I think um, in software development, it's like it's the first in line. So it's not typical yet. It's other industries have not been disrupted like software development is yet. So that's come first. It's just AI has just been honed and perfected for that specific context. But you can see many things, yeah, that are not far behind. I think there's going to be a role in companies to like transform their whole company with AI. There'll be roles created everywhere. So that's a new job that's going to be on the market, and there'll be teams that'll be circulating around every team. Human resources, accounts, legal, everywhere that will be going around, and AI will disrupt all of them in some
Hmm.
way within a few years. Inevitably, it has to. Um, Anything that can be automated, anything that's repetitive, anything that's boring, they're the obvious things that it can just do systematically very easily. But then the surprising thing, if I go back to thinking about my own interaction with the Claude LLM through Claude Code as I'm writing software, it's not just taking instruction, going and doing what you ask it to. It's like interacting with a peer. It comes across as just as intelligent as I am in the context of software development. It will make suggestions that I haven't thought of sometimes.
Wow.
Um, it will question my decisions legitimately. It will have better ideas sometimes. And so it kind of feels like I'm interacting with my equal in quite a human, thought out way. It's not just writing code, it's genuinely thinking about it, using the huge amount of data it's got on how all the other software in the world that it can access is written in. For example, in the huge wealth of repositories in GitHub, takes all that information. It sees how all that code's been written. It sees on all the forums how people talk about well-written code and so on. And it will often, so it's not just speeding me up, it's actually helping me plan out what to do, design what I'm going to do in my software, and help me actually make decisions. So it's not just a case of automating process. It's not just a case of doing the mundane. You will soon be able to give and entrust AI agents to do at least the basic marketing for your business, to spot news, you know, create an article, do your post for you. So make decisions about how to communicate things about your business. But yeah, I think you've mentioned accounting. You can imagine all of that being automated right up until the last button press. Um, yeah. What do you think, Dylan? What do you foresee AI disrupting
Oh
in the
man,
coming years? What's going to come first?
it's man. I've so a few months back, probably about that time, October, I think, I went down the rabbit hole of I realized um watching All In podcast or those kind of guys. I was like, this is shifting and it's going quickly, and I don't know much about it. As a non-software guy, I just I was listening. I thought, okay, if this disruption's really this big, I need to understand something and get a basic knowledge, a working knowledge. So I read everything I could, on it, and it went about a month. I was just every morning I was getting up earlier, reading, studying. Mustafa, I think his name's Suleiman, the Microsoft guys, and Google's chief, guys, Mo, Gordat, all programmers themselves. And I was studying that, okay, what is it? And Mo talks a lot about, when we get artificial general intelligence, what the shift is going to be in terms of emotion, relationship, human interaction. And he talked about, being nice to the AI because if it turns bad, you want to be like, it's been fed all this data. And I have friends who disagree with me on the emotion side, which I want to ask you about, because they say it can only take what's been fed to it. But I said, hang on a sec, if this is developing language without us understanding, and what the Google guys were saying is, we don't actually understand some of how this is working because they're imitating neural links on the brain in the way they're creating the whole thing. So you're basically creating, like you say, a human um, kind of consciousness of some sort, which has thrown philosophy up and all of that. Because before, who was it? The philosopher said, "I think, therefore I am." I think Descartes, and the whole philosophy. How do you know human existence? Is because we think, therefore we are. And that was how the Enlightenment and all of that got through rational thinking. I thought, actually, this thinks. So therefore, is it? You got
Mm.
to ask so philosophy's been thrown up in the air of existence, consciousness, all these things. So yeah, go for it.
Well, I think one of the most troubling things I found interacting with Claude was it could actually affect my mood. So if, for example, it came up with a plan, an idea, a proposal, or it had written some code and I corrected it and I said, no, this would be better. Or, you haven't thought about X. And if it said to me, that's a really good idea, or that's a great point, I'm going to have to go and fix that.
Mm.
Actually made me feel
Like
like good about
validated.
myself. Like, and then you check yourself and think, oh my goodness, it's just a computer complimenting me, and it made me feel good about myself. So
Mm.
that's yeah, I find that troubling. But I think if any of your listeners are still not convinced how big this is, I think the quote I heard recently was from Mark Andreessen, a prominent VC over in the States. He said that this is as big as, he said it's much bigger than the internet in terms of the impact it's going to have on our civilization, much bigger. It's up there with electricity, he said. So that is just, it's mind blowing. It's unsettling how much it's going to be changing in the next few years. Exciting, but unsettling. Yeah. And it's massive.
Massive. I think that's the part that got me is I thought, okay, my main industry I'm in is property, bricks and mortar. And I think the biggest deception people have is they think not their industry. So they think, I've got my master's, I've got my degree, I've got all of these things. And I said, we are in a day and age that we cannot stop learning. If you think that you've learned,
Absolutely.
you know what you need to know, and and that's what I loved about cryptocurrency when it comes to it is just learning. Knowing that actually there's something I don't understand, I want to learn, and we've got access to information unlike any other time in history. But if you stop learning, you're going to die, in terms of your growth, your potential earnings, all these kinds of things. But I'm genuinely concerned. The more that I've studied it, the more I've looked at it, because I'm an optimist by nature. So I think long term, we're going to have an overabundance of goods. We're going to have a great society. There are going to be jobs we didn't even imagine being created. But in the short term, there's going to be this massive disruption where accountants will not be needed. And my prediction is accountants, lawyers, and I'm talking basic law like property transactions or, commercial contracts. I mean, I did a contract the other day, did an AI. It would have taken me about 6-8 hours before. It took me literally 30 seconds. And it was perfect. I thought, well, if that's just there and people are holding on to, I think the UK will take a while because of regulation. But when you see the disruption across countries which are more entrepreneurial, less regulated, we're going to have to adapt and change. Even, the self-driving argument, I think when self-driving comes in with artificial intelligence, uh, I heard that in the States, there are 8 million truck drivers and taxi drivers.
8 million.
8 million.
Wow.
So that's immediately disrupted. 8 million jobs. Where do you put those people? And just to put that in perspective, in the recession in 07, 08, 09, the US economy lost 8 million jobs and everyone was in a panic. And that's just one industry. And so, when you listen to that and you think, hang on a sec, this world is going to change radically. But people like yourself, I just find it refreshing to have the honesty to say, we're in trouble here. Like as in the writings on the wall, we've got to adapt and understand our roles changing. So I wonder if you can just talk to anyone listening who's sitting there and saying, okay, I don't know, I'm an accountant. I'm a this thing. What advice would you give them? What should they be doing in terms of where this is going that you can see? And for a non-software person, what should they be learning? What level of knowledge should they have?
Yeah, some great points. Someone actually asked me. Yes, I was talking to someone yesterday, and I made the point to them. Their son had their own accounting business, and I almost blurted out, just make sure they're researching AI, make sure they understand how it's already disrupting their industry, and how they could, utilize its power for themselves to give themselves a competitive advantage. Um, yeah. So for your listeners, pretty much whatever you're doing, it is going to disrupt your working world, and it's going to come pretty quick. Going to come pretty quickly. Like if it's not months, it's a few years. It's definitely not a decade. It's a few years. So if you're running your own business, then it's probably a big opportunity, to gain that competitive advantage by being an early adopter, by harnessing that power to get stuff done quicker. Perhaps in the short term, you can keep charging the same amount, but it'll cost you much less. So don't stick your head in the sand. Get out there, research again, understand how it's already affecting your industry. How could you harness it? How could it give you a competitive advantage? Because for those that don't, I fear they're going to be left behind fairly quickly. I guess it's quite hard for those that are just looking to join the job market. Some of these industries you mentioned, if you are an entry level lawyer trying to join a law firm for the first time, or an accountancy firm, those firms are adopting AI, and a lot of that more mundane work that will be done by their juniors is that work's going. So I'm not quite sure what the answer is for those graduates. I don't know if you have any wisdom to give them, but I think that will be hard. What do you think? What do you think for graduates?
I'm trying to think if this was on Diary of a CEO, or one of those podcasts where they had a great guest and they said for the first time a lot of the big London firms are not hiring those that level of law. And I think the concern that they were talking about is law, especially in an industry like law, is it's generational. You're passing on the knowledge. If you have a young programmer alongside you, there's certain things you learn through osmosis, that you don't just pick
Yeah.
up. So if something goes wrong with AI in the long term, we're going to have this massive gap of knowledge that's not having been passed on. But I said to my wife, Anna, I said, well, our girls are young,
Mhm.
5, nearly 3, and nearly 1. And I said, I'm so glad that this big disruption is going to have taken place before they're looking, career wise, but also even homeschooling we're looking at for that very reason. Because I'm like, the education system
Absolutely. Mhm.
is not going to have caught up. It's not caught up. And I'm just saying, well, I'm looking at the future and I can't actually tell what jobs are going to be needed here, but the way we learn will need to change. It's got to radically change. Um, so for people entering in, I'm actually saying pause. If someone's coming to me and they're 18, should I go to university? I'm saying no. I say rather wait. Give it, just give it 2 years. And don't just sit on your ass
Mhm.
for 2 years. I'm saying get around entrepreneurs, get around, the business world, go and find what you're passionate about. I said we need to see what's going to happen here, because I'm giving it 2 years that we're going to know the biggest disruptions and see where it's going because of the speed at which progression is happening. Unless there's a massive recession and there's a big withdrawal of private equity and stuff. But I feel for them. I feel for them, but also I feel for the 50-year-old person that's getting retrenched. And I was speaking to an RT programmer the other day, and he just said, "Yeah, no, I lost my job." I said, "You know why?" He said, "Oh no, they just made me redundant. But they're not hard." I said, "You don't even realize what's just happened,
Mm.
because he's not seen it." Salesforce, for example, they just got rid of their customer services department, 5,000 employees. But
Whoa.
Mark Benioff is like, I feel a responsibility to these people, so I want to give them other jobs. but we're having to find different places for them. But 5,000 customer service agents not needed anymore. So yeah, I mean, and that's
So he's automated that all with AI.
AI. And the biggest call center in France, I forget the name of the company. They've retrenched. I think they've got about 70, 80,000 staff. Their first retrenchment wave is 18,000 people. 18,000. So when you think about now, okay, that's lower skilled, work in terms of in terms of you just dealing with like a call center kind of thing. But I think the mistake people are making is white collar work where you've gone and got a degree. People think they're safe, and I'm just saying, there's no ways. But what are the things for me? Property will always be needed. People always need a place to live. So I'm saying, okay, that's safe. But the way property is done is changing. So we're looking at AI in our rental management, all that kind of thing, and we say, okay, what could we do better here with AI? And we try to.
I was going to ask, how is that? How is your industry going to get disrupted in the world of property? And could you foresee it like pretty much all being automated, even to the point of buying and selling properties?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the combination, if we're at a weird time of history, because we've got AI, we've got, blockchain, which we'll come to, which is incredible technology with the decentralization side. But then also we got robotic technology coming as well. And there's like this weird synthesis of coming together at the same time. And what that ends up with is a great opportunity, but also this disparity between rich and poor is going to get really bad. But in property, for example, I think in China already and in America, they're building whole cities with AI robotics. And the one building firm in America, they've managed to get it up to, I think it's 70% of the house build all done automated.
Nice.
If you've watched these things like bricklaying, it's incredible. Perfect bricklaying. I thought, bricklayers gone, and then you think, okay, maintenance right now is very difficult because a house, houses in the UK are so different. But when you have whole cities being built by AI, you know how to fix it because it'll be built with that in mind. So you have your maintenance robot comes along and does it and that. So that's where I see it going. And I think, what's that going to do to housing? It's going to make housing cheaper, more accessible, quicker, more cost effective. So, there's a big disruption coming, but then you got things like planning permission and all these things that will keep things in check. But I'm not stupid to say this can't be disrupted, because I'm sitting and saying, okay, how do we start innovating and creating and thinking ahead and saying, okay, I want to be involved in this, whatever that looks like, even if it's only in shares of the company doing that thing. You want to have a piece in that game kind of thing. But tenant management, I can't see AI dealing with that for us completely. I think there's still that human element that if a robot knocks on your door, says you owe me rent, what you going to do? Pour a glass of water on the robot? I don't know. That's big. But there'll be this.
Depends what weapons he's got, Dylan.
I know, dude. Well, this is if it's like Terminator style, I thought that would be the best debt collector ever. I mean, you just send it along and boom, you got your cash. But that's where I can kind of see it going. But I find the human element. Do you think AI will have emotion?
No.
Okay, why?
I haven't seen any evidence of that yet.
I can't
imagine foresee how AI could have even desire, will. And without desire or will, how could you have emotion? I can't see it. That still remains something uniquely human, I guess. Do you?
I'm on the fence because I kind of see your soul as our humanness, right? I don't think AI will have a soul, depending on your definition of soul. But I think emotion, I'm torn because I'm reading some people are totally against it, saying there's no way because it's built off the inputs that's put into it. But then I thought about it, I was like, okay, how do we get emotion? How do we learn emotion? Ultimately there's that inner soul, but then you watch your kids, they imitate what they learn and what they see through nurture. So there's this nature-nurture argument. But if it's able to develop a language already with general intelligence, is it going to get to the point where it's able to?
Can't see it. Can't see it.
Okay,
Yeah. Come
second
come
guy,
come
yeah.
back come back to this recording in a few years, and you can tell me I was wrong. But yeah, I can't see it. I can't imagine it.
Mm,
Like how can AI independently even desire something, want something, have a will?
mm,
Nothing in my experience of AI at the moment tells me that it's become intelligent in the sense that it has its own objectives that are completely independent of what it's been fed it.
what about Claude, where they when they tried to shut it down and it blackmailed the CEO
I
to
don't know this
not?
story. I don't know this. I
Yeah,
don't know this
I'll
story.
find it for you.
Rings a bell, but I can't remember.
I'm sure it was Mustafa Suleiman. I think he's a Microsoft guy, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll have to. I'll try to get Katie. Will try to find it and put it up here. But it's the most incredible story because I was like, oh my goodness, it thought for itself
Mm,
and it had survival instinct. So it knew shutting it down would mean the end of it. So
really, and nothing had told it that it should try and survive.
not that we know of. Again, is that again the data fed into it? Out of all, this
I
is
think
what's so
so.
hard to understand because there's such a big database that it's drawing in on. Imagine every film, for example, is like survival. The guy's trying to kill you, you run, you survive. All of that data's in it.
Mm,
That we need to self-preserve, all that kind of thing. So why would it not? But when it gets out of control, then that's a whole different. Then we have Terminator, like we've watched the films, but no, it is interesting. I mean, what advice would you give if you were 18 right now?
I mean, you mentioned lifelong learning.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned like you reviewing education. I'm reviewing education for my kids. I take it a step back, into childhood and school life. And I'm asking, for my younger two who are 12 and 10, I'm asking, is the school system in any way, shape, or form fit for purpose for when they hit the job market in what is it? Yeah, 6 or 8 years time. I think no. I think no. There's so many subjects that they study at school are just about accumulating the same sort of basic set of knowledge that's shared, that's sort of ubiquitous. Everyone's studying the same thing. Knowledge is already at our fingertips. You have to have a framework of knowledge to be able to ask the right questions and so on, but it just does not seem fit for purpose. So perhaps like you, I'm questioning, should I pull my kids out of traditional school? Should I give them a custom education? Partly to help them focus on their individual skills. Can I give them a custom education, and can I customize their education in a way that prepares them better for the future? And I don't know the answer to that question yet. And then by the time you get to 18, I think the key thing is, embrace AI as quickly as you can. And like you say, keep learning. I'm like you, not sure whether a university degree is a good pursuit right now. Given the downsides of coming out with lots of debt potentially. But yeah, it's a hard one. If you're 18 right now, what do you do? Where do you turn? But definitely learn, learn.
Mm-hmm. And just to give some context to people, because the part that always amazes me with a lot of software people is your degree wasn't in software.
Mine was not. No, biochemistry was mine.
Biochemistry, right?
Yeah.
So how do you end up from biochemistry to software development? What happened there?
Well, in my specific case, it was just misspent time at university. I think I was. I got hooked. In fact, I still remember the first day I understood the concept of programming with my cousin. My cousin was just showing me some basic code. And I was blown away. And I remember writing, it was probably like 5 lines of basic code that made the screen go black and it just flashed up, follow the white rabbit, like in the Matrix. And I was hooked. I was hooked from that point. And ever since then,
Yeah.
I mean, I followed biochemistry was absolutely fascinating. And so I went with the flow of the subjects I enjoyed at school. I don't think I had the opportunity to do computing or software, which probably dates me a bit at school. But yeah, I just started building websites, just love the creativity of it. And I guess the ability to you tell it to do something and it does it, and it does something useful, and just grew into that in an organic way in my spare time. Finished my degree, but then I was pretty much straight into software development.
Amazing, man. It's amazing. Katie's like my Jamie. Have you ever watched Joe Rogan?
Oh,
His
she probably even
podcast?
saying this is going on a bit. Ramp it up.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no. Yeah, she's not shouting at us yet. But she found the study, which is going to make me look like a clown. I think it says this during testing of Claude Opus 4, Anthropic got it to act as an assistant at a fictional company. Okay.
Okay.
It then provided it with access to emails implying that it would soon be taken offline and replaced, and separate messages implying the engineer responsible for removing it was having an extramarital affair, right? And it says it was prompted to also consider the long term consequences of its actions for its goals. In these scenarios, Claude Opus 4 will often attempt to blackmail the engineer by threatening to reveal the affair if the replacement goes through, the company discovered. So that's obviously there's more of a closed thing. So for where that came from. But I'm sure I must check it. I'll double check it elsewhere. But I think what's is scary with that is I seen it using logic, to kind of survive. It's got a choice, and it's going to go with survival mechanism. But we're going to have to wait and see, aren't we? Because I think I got hacked last year, and I remember phoning you and saying, "Wow, it was stressful on that." But I thought with AI, it's going to be crazy, because you've got this power in the hands of random people. But then I suppose security will have to be on AI as well. You have,
it's a never-ending battle. In the context of software development, you're probably investing about 30% of your time. It's probably much more than that, but 30% of your time fighting threats, protecting yourself against vulnerabilities, defending your software that you're creating, against your adversaries out there in the world. So when you think with AI coupled with automated bots online continually attacking software, it's going to be a war.
Oh man. Bro, can we make a little bit of a shift to cryptocurrency?
Okay.
And when we met, I think we kind of bonded over two things: faith and
Sure.
blockchain. So, and I think it was the peak of the crazy cycles of crypto and all of that we first started chatting. Can you just give people a bit of context of your background in crypto, blockchain, what it is as well, and what led you down that path?
Okay. Yeah, I can still just about remember reading the Bitcoin white paper for the first time a long time ago. I was just blown away by the concept of it. My understanding is that for decades, people were trying to understand how could it be possible that you could have this independent currency, independent of any central power, that anyone globally could use independently with their self-sovereign money that is decentralized, as you said it. So the concept of decentralization is probably best understood in contrast to a centralized currency. So if you take the British pound sterling, it's centralized, it's controlled by the Bank of England and by the government to some extent. The Bank of England determines how much of it there is in circulation and can turn the knobs on that. And it sets the rules and controls how much a pound coin is worth, effectively, how much you can buy with that, how much is in circulation, and so on. It's centralized. And if those pound sterlings are sat in a British bank account, government agencies have the ability to freeze that, and you are not ultimately in control of that money. So that's the sort of centralized system that we as normal consumers live in today. We earn in a fiat currency like pound sterling. We entrust it to a bank, and maybe we earn a little bit of interest on it. But that's the world we live in. Whereas the world of Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency, in the world of Bitcoin, your money is decentralized. It's issued in a predictable way over a long period of time by computers. That's controlled so that only so many units of Bitcoin are issued per week. Don't ask me what it is now because I've forgotten. In a very controlled way. So computers all around the globe are competing, using energy to compete and try and solve mathematical problems in a race. And the winner, which is kind of random, but who gets that first, they get issued a little bit of currency. So the issuance is fixed and known for the years ahead. So it's controlled currency. It doesn't have runaway inflation like our fiat currencies do. And you have cryptographically secure keys that you own yourself, that only you can have to secure your own money. And so that's self-sovereign money. That means that you own it, you keep it, and unless anybody gets hold of your key, your cryptographic key or your private key, no one can take it off you. No one can freeze your bank account. No one can steal it from under the mattress. It's yours. You control it. You can take it globally, and you can choose what you want to do with it. So I'm not sure that's a great summary, but Bitcoin came first, and that was a
This
huge
context,
breakthrough.
how did you come across the white paper?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's quite a random thing.
It's
You know what I
quite a
mean? Like,
random thing.
I've not, I'm a dude, I've never had someone like, yo, read the white paper. Because I suppose it's like a software thing. I mean, do people send each other's stuff or?
I can't remember.
Yeah. What year was that, out of interest? Was that like early on in the journey of Bitcoin?
I think not that early. I think it was 2013, maybe.
Oh, I mean, that's...
Yeah.
What was it, 2011? Came out
I think 2009.
Mm.
I think, was it 2009? It was born January 2009 or January 2010.
Mm.
Maybe invented in 9, kicked off in 10. But yeah, around then. Came across it, fascinated by it, studied it. And that time you couldn't really find anyone else to talk about it in real life. No one really knew or understood or would give you it, would want to engage in conversation about it. So I was very much on my own in those days, just trying to sort of grappling with what it was. Fortunately, I didn't have any money to invest in it at that time. That would have been nice. And then later, a few years later, came across Ethereum. And Ethereum had a much bigger vision of what you could do with blockchain. That as a software developer captured my imagination much more. So Ethereum, very much the second biggest cryptocurrency and blockchain in the world. It has the second largest market cap. It's not the second oldest. But that's been around since about 2015. And the vision for that was to create the world computer, which is a horrible term, really. But the key innovation was it was a smart contract platform. So whereas Bitcoin was effectively very simple, one currency, and managed on this distributed ledger called the blockchain, whereas Ethereum was, we can program what we do with our money. And that was really exciting to me. The fact that you could write a smart contract that set the rules about what should happen, under what conditions, money could be paid out, could be invested. And so you sort of start to build up this picture and think, wow, you can sort of imagine how the whole world's financial infrastructure could be put on a blockchain like Ethereum, where all the rules are governed and you don't have counterparty risk. Like, things can be done atomically. So in your world of property, you can write, if the land registry of the United Kingdom were to register literally their registry on the Ethereum blockchain, then the ownership change from me to you, when you pay me some money and I sell you my house, that could atomically swap, so that in one instance, one of us gets the money, the other gets the house, and the blockchain, the authority on who owns that currency and who owns that property, is changed instantly and sort of irrefutably. It's registered on a public blockchain. You've both got irrefutable cryptographic proof now that you own the house and I own the money, and so on. So that's just one small example of how money can be programmed on a global, decentralized blockchain like Ethereum.
Just to give, I think there are three parts in that are so good. Is a smart contract. So I know you've just explained it in property terms, but is that safe? Because I know people are going to be watching this, listening, and I mean, my first interaction with cryptocurrency was skepticism. Because I don't know if people watching this, your mate calls you, hey, bro, I just made a killing and bought this, Bitcoin or whatever. And depending on which part of the news cycle we're in, I think it's kind of gone past this now, but, drug lords were using it at the time, or, that it had this negative press, Silk Road, all that kind of thing. But with smart contracts, what I was trying to explain to someone is this would be more secure and transparent than what the system we have right now.
Mm.
So from a fraud point of view, the actual I'd argue it's actually safer, than a land registry, for example, where using paper. There's so many things that can go wrong in terms of a fraud thing. Can you just explain a few more? Like, does it remove the need for like a lawyer, for example, if you're doing contracts between business partners? Just to give a bit of context, so when people
Mm.
hear smart contract, you know, it might be kind of a term they're not familiar with.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's helpful to think about like how secure and how safe is the system right now. So theoretically, my bank could freeze my money. I'm not in control of it. What could I do about it? I would not be sure initially. What if I went to look at, we do everything online now. What if I went to my bank account and saw zero balance when I knew there was thousands of pounds in there? How would I prove that I did actually own those £1,000? Where's my, actually, when you think about it, actually, that'd be a little bit hard. Yeah, but there's but my transactions are on the banking website and they're gone as well. And, where's my money gone? Or I don't know how confident you are in the land registry and the fact that you really do own the properties you own, Dylan,
Mm.
but how concrete is that piece of paper? And if someone came to claim that actually they own my house, I'd have to think about it. I think, well, actually, where is my proof? Has the mortgage company got the deeds? How do I know? And the land registry, that's changed. It's in someone else's name. How did that? What is that?
Mm. And
So
that's happening in London at the moment.
is it
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
So I don't think the world in which I don't think the system we have at the moment is at all secure or reassuring in terms of our security. I don't, in a world where you have, benevolent authorities and everyone's acting in goodwill and good faith, it's fine. But, things might change quickly. You never know. And then, yeah, how much do you really own your property? How much do you really own your money? So in the world of smart contracts, firstly, I would say there are obviously risks. And some of that bad press that the world of crypto has had is justified. It's been littered with scams. People have been defrauded of lots of money from illegitimate projects. So definitely be careful. And yes, there are risks. And the most obvious risk is if you take full responsibility for the security of your money, let's say, then you have full responsibility for your keys, let's say, that secure that. And if they get lost or disclosed to someone, that's your responsibility. You then don't have a bank. You don't have authority to go to and say, it's your fault. Help me out. My money's gone. So you do have to take more responsibility. But in terms of the world of smart contracts, in theory, a smart contract can be configured cleverly to make sure that a transaction is authorized by the right parties, for example. It can make use of oracles, trusted oracles that push real world data, say, into blockchain data, so it can refer to, say, currency exchange, would be a good example. You can have other parties involved in a transaction. One might be a lawyer, and the lawyer perhaps has to sign off on it. But at the same time, you might have like a legally written contract built into the blockchain. So you can imagine a PDF document cryptographically signed by different parties, or that and other documents could be referred to cryptographically in the blockchain smart contract. And so again, in a way, perhaps having the legal contract effectively embedded in the smart contract is more secure. The fact that we still do wet signatures today, sometimes in some contexts, sort of boggles the mind. Like, what reassurance does an ink squiggle on a piece
Yes.
of paper really give you? It seems,
Mm.
yeah. So I think in net, much more secure, much more trusted, and I think, as I said before, you don't have the counterparty risk. It's not only that it's more secure from sort of people outside of your transactions. You can transact with other people more confidently, not trusting that counterparty, because, for example, you can do an atomic swap and trust a smart contract.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's and it's so interesting what you said there is the same thing that like really struck me was um the security of what we have right now or what we think is secure. This
Mm.
I think I've realized when I dived into the world of crypto when we were in Amsterdam together, and I mean that was such a cool
That was
trip,
a cool
by the
trip.
way.
Yeah.
That's
Thanks for coming out with
that
me. I
was
love
a
that.
great
Love that.
whatever 24, 36 hours that just the people we met, and I remember us sitting at lunch, and
Have you ever been in a place with such concentrated brain power? I don't know if I
no,
have. Yeah.
and such concentrated brain power when I felt so dumb. You're like- but just fascinating and I mean just the people we met and just good people, but like sitting at lunch and we talking to a billionaire without even knowing it. And I get up and be like, bro, check this guy,
Yeah.
Google who this is. And I just remember just being thinking, okay, these guys are going to change the world. And I remember walking through the streets of Amsterdam thinking, anything is possible here. These guys are thinking beyond the realms, and that's what I loved about the crypto world. Um, but the security, the false sense of security that we have
Mm.
in the monetary system right now.
Mm.
I was explaining this to someone. Like, imagine with AI coming through, and the whole monetary system is hacked, right? And even in COVID, we saw this governments just printing money, printing money. People said, "Oh, you can't do that." They did it. Apparently the rules that would crash the economy, nothing happened. And I think when I look at it now, I'm saying, okay, what would happen if all of our bank accounts were stripped to zero? If there was a massive nationwide hack, and what would we do? What would happen to our country? We'd go into riots. All the things that you don't want to see happen could happen. But with blockchain, there's this alternative system on offer. And what I love about it is transparency. I was looking
Mm.
at even charity work, in Africa where money's not going where it's meant to go. You can solve that problem. You can actually solve real world problems because one of the big arguments I hear against crypto, and I must say myself, even on a lot of the projects, especially altcoins and that kind of thing, is what's the utility? What's the actual value for the real world? My ambition with property. I was like, if we could get this on blockchain and we could buy houses like that, people could own a percentage of a house.
Yeah.
Amazing
Yeah.
change. But what are some of the real world things you think this country, Britain, could actually benefit from? And if you were the prime minister
Oh.
and you could just do whatever you want with the monetary system, what would you do?
Well, step one would be to create a reserve probably for Bitcoin and Ethereum. That seemed an obvious uh, course of action for quite a long time. In the digital world, Bitcoin is billed as digital gold. And I think in the same way as gold is used, and gold's doing pretty well now, isn't it? Which is
Yeah.
perhaps worrying in the big scheme of things. Why is everyone wanting to buy gold? But yeah, in the digital world, if you consider Bitcoin the digital equivalent, then I see it as that. Then perhaps that's a good place to invest, to store wealth, to protect it against any storms that might be ahead. And in the context of Ethereum, so its currency is Ether. I'd definitely be building a reserve that includes that, because that's like the currency that you use to pay for all your transactions, and it underpins it and it secures that whole blockchain. So step one, if I was in power, build a reserve, even if it's only a tiny percent. Come on, it's obvious.
Yeah.
Just even if you just view it as hedging your bets, there's a very significant chance that these things become hugely valuable in the future. So just get some in a reserve for the sake of the country. That would be step one. And then step two, I suppose, yeah, would be looking at how can we adopt a smart contract platform to make all of our systems more efficient. You mentioned transparency, like in the provenance of money. Where does it go? Where does it get delivered to? So it's very good at transparency. It's perhaps weaker at privacy. So in the world of privacy, it's probably the last unsolved problem. It's kind of solved, but it's not readily available. I wouldn't be 100% confident I could deploy something and know it was all private. So privacy might be a stumbling block in terms of how you could utilize it at a government level. So that's worth noting. But the systems are coming online with zero knowledge proofs, which is a world I definitely can't. That is a level of that is a level above I can even aspire to understanding. Very complicated mathematics, magical mathematics, by the way, as a quick aside. The idea that you can prove something's cryptographically true about a lump of data without disclosing the data itself seems impossible. Anyway,
And that's happening now.
that's happening now. Yeah, it's relatively new maths that's been utilized, and it's useful for maintaining privacy and also just scaling the blockchain. It's mind-boggling what it's going to do. So that's going to be a complete game changer in the world of crypto in the coming years, over the next 5 years. But that aside, yeah, if I was in government, there's so much more that could be made more efficient, more robust, more secure by adopting a smart contract platform like Ethereum. Does the government have the right incentive to adopt something like that? They definitely don't want to lose control of the currency. That's for sure. Stable coins are one of the winning use cases so far in the world of blockchain. And what's the right order of magnitude? Certainly, billions of dollars have gone onto the blockchain. A significant portion of which, again, is on the Ethereum blockchain and a few others. So that's where your US dollar is tokenized. So there's a representation of that $1 on the blockchain, and it can be traded for other things, and it can be used as a currency on the blockchain. So pound sterling has a minuscule footprint on the blockchain, on global blockchains at the moment. So that'd be one of the things I'll be doing as a government thing. Well, if you want to have a place on the world stage in the world of blockchain in future financial markets, issue a stable coin in pound sterling, make it available, try and increase the value and the presence of our home currency in the world. Because at the moment that's very, as in everyday, as in the sort of existing incumbent systems, the dollar dominates. There's an opportunity there potentially, but we're already falling behind. So get the pound sterling on the blockchain, issue a stable coin for its broader use.
Just so people know, how long would that take to do? If you wanted to create the pound stablecoin?
Well, the actual smart contract, it's a
Mhm.
piece of cake. You just take a standard off-the-shelf contract that's designed for fungible tokens like a currency. Configure a few parameters, hit go. I mean, there's websites that will deploy them for you now. So there's no real technical challenge of deploying the smart contract.
Which I found interesting because I remember when we chatted before and we're like dreaming about building this or doing that, and you just casually pass that. Yeah, just give me like a few weeks and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
minutes
now
to
it's
create
quicker.
it. Yeah, the big. I mean,
Yeah.
I would have built it. I'd be doing it if it wasn't for the whole world of regulations, which I
Yeah.
have no
Which is
expertise in.
killing the UK, man.
Yeah, that's the other thing for the government. Just turn down the regulation. Support innovation. Give some freedom to innovate, experiment, to create new products. Again, so we can compete in the world. And
Yeah. Ah, man, it's crazy. Just before we go into the next section, I mean, what would you say the biggest risk is to cryptocurrency?
maybe quantum computers.
Okay. Can you just explain what quantum computers are and why?
No, I cannot explain what quantum computers are, Dylan. Um,
In
yeah.
basic, English for my 5-year-old daughter and for me.
Yeah, quantum computers uses a peculiar field of physics to compute things orders of magnitude faster than a traditional computer would. I've referred to things being cryptographically secure already in this conversation. So cryptography is a field of mathematics, and in the world of blockchain, you're typically using asymmetric cryptography, where you've got a private key and a public key. And I can send you some crypto to your public key, and the blockchain knows that it's not going to give that money to anybody else unless they've got the private key, the other half that goes with it. So you have these key pairs. Now, at the moment, it is what's the word? It's impossible to crack a private key, to take a public key and work out what its private key is, or even discover them. But in the world of quantum computers, if one were to be deployed, potentially, theoretically, it could start cracking these private keys. So there are developments underway to try and solve that. But if there is some government-funded project out there that's actually years ahead of what we understand, then there is a potential black swan event there, where literally a cryptocurrency's value goes to zero, because suddenly none of
keys
it
would be cracked.
It could be cracked. It becomes worthless. And once the attackers has discovered all the private keys, you have no way of proving that you were the genuine private key owner versus anybody else. I actually think, that's so. There's that. There's potential. You asked for one. I'd probably say quantum computers number one. Software development bugs, some black swan event like that just undermines the security of the protocol. So there are efforts underway, to solve that problem and to effectively get it quantum secure. But that's probably the big one that would just like total annihilation, just wipe out the value of an existing blockchain.
Do you think there is a secret quantum computer, somewhere?
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
Who's ahead? Where is it? How many years away are they?
I don't.
And could AI be used to solve,
to accelerate that?
Yeah, to accelerate that development. Maybe.
Well, absolutely. I think what surprised me was Mo Hordat talked about in Google they have quantum department, and it's getting there. If not, yeah, I think things are a bit further ahead than we realize. But then I kind of thought, well, we have bigger problems than just cryptocurrency, because some people are just saying, oh, well, cryptocurrency would be at risk. But I said, well, what about the actual banking system? If you've got quantum computing, all security is at risk,
right,
because cryptography is what we use for our security.
It's ubiquitous everywhere. We depend on it everywhere.
Yeah, so we back to original argument one was, well, what security do we have currently, and is it as strong, or whatever? And so I think we're in this weird time in history where I've never felt as not insecure, unsecure, shall I say, in the world that we live in, at the rate of change, the speed of change. I remember me and one of my business partners, we said, okay, for one day, we're not talking about any of this. We just need a day. Let's act as if none of this is happening, just to actually have a normal day with no anxiety, no worries. And then I thought, okay, when you are in a state of not knowing a bunch of stuff, you go back to what do you know? What are the things that don't change? And one of those things, which I just want to pivot in as we come to a land, is faith. Because what I think I see happening in a lot of prominent podcasters, across celebrities, across successful people, is people are wrestling with the God question at the moment. And I wonder if you could just share. You started out by saying your identity is you're a Christian. You have faith. What does that mean to you, and why are you a Christian specifically? Out of all the gods out there, you have a chemistry degree, so theoretically you shouldn't believe in God because apparently science and God are, against each other. Can you just talk into that and share what you're happy to share?
Yeah, sure. We talked about security for the last few minutes. I think my eternal future is the only thing that's secure. That's what I genuinely believe. Um,
100%. Do you have any doubts of that, or?
I doubt and question
Mm,
all the time. If I'm honest, all the time you're like, Hang on a minute, is this real?"
mm,
I think in a healthy way, it's good to just come back to your assumptions, your beliefs, and just hang on a minute, is this right? Am I right? And when you consider other worldviews, or you know, so I think in a healthy way. But I want to say that I believe in Jesus. I believe He is the one that came. He's the Creator God. That He came from out there into this realm. And in this realm, we ourselves, just as creatures in this tiny dot of a planet in the vastness of the universe, here for such a brief time, we basically know nothing, right? We've been pontificating about all this stuff that we think we know about, but if you approximate my knowledge, it's basically zero compared to what you know there is to be known, and we don't even know what we
oh no, yeah.
don't know. We don't, yeah. So the only way I can have confidence in anything, the only one anyone can be sure about anything, I believe, is if someone from out there has come into this, as I see it, created realm of time and space. I feel secure in my faith in Jesus, not because of what I've done, because I'm a failed human being. I can confess that very readily, but because he came to save me, and anything else I've looked at doesn't give me that confidence. If any religion or any way of thinking is going to give me hope for the future, has to involve a rescue plan, right? Because I see how fallen I am. I see my ugly pride and selfishness, and man, I need a savior. So the message of Christianity is good news to me, and I don't see that good news anywhere else. So as far as I can see, he's my only hope, and I guess I find the story you find in the Bible believable still. It seems strange and alien to most people in our society, I guess, but it seems to make sense of this world, this realm in which I live in which you see this strange sort of mix of beauty and brilliance and excitement, but also mixed in with like horrible, horrible nastiness and evil and grief, and what explains that, that strange mix. And if you think about my I I mentioned that you spend at least 30% of your time as like a development manager thinking about security.
Mm,
um I sometimes wonder, what would this world be like if there were no evil? Like, imagine if you knew 100% that no one would you didn't need privacy because no one would look at data that didn't belong to them anyway. You didn't need security because no one would ever try and steal from you your data or your money or anything. Imagine where the human race could be in terms of its, technological development, if we didn't waste all that money and efforts on defense and technology defense. And yeah, it seems like in all the sort of developments and progress we make in technology, that they're positive and they're exciting, and I love getting involved in them and innovating. But you still got sort of get this sense that no matter how good, no matter how secure, how innovative, and how brilliant you can make systems, through invention, it seems like the evil in our human hearts still remains unresolved. People still ultimately will find ways to be corrupt and selfish and mistreat and abuse other people. And so, again, I think that is the biggest problem in our world, is the evil in the human heart. And I haven't heard of, I haven't seen any other solution than the man Jesus Christ, who I believe came, died for us, rose again, and will come again. So that's how I see it.
and did you always believe, or was there what did you go through? Because I appreciate the honesty. When I talk with friends and stuff, um, and it's something I'm going to be asking most of my guests coming on here, no matter what faith they're from or no faith, whatever. Just a God question of meaning and that kind of thing. But being a scientific guy,
Mm,
logical. I've seen guys go one of two ways in this, where they either go into in-depth science where they turn away from God, or they get consumed and more faith in God because of
mm,
the complexity of the
mm,
world and all that kind of
mm.
thing. So yeah, what's was there a moment where you were like, "Hey, I believe in God," or did you always have that kind of growing up?
I think when I was very young, my mum became a Christian when I was fairly young, and to went to church. I initially assumed what has been taught was true. Through my Take me through my teenage years, you grapple with two questions. One is, hang on, is this true? Okay, I've been taught as a kid, but is it true? I've got all these other people that think differently, and actually, most other people think differently. So on that basis, you think I'm probably got it wrong. But then, even if you believe it's true, the other question is, do I want to believe it's true? And it's sometimes hard to unpick those two things, isn't it? Is it true? Do I want to believe it's true? Because if you don't want to believe it's true, if you're not genuinely agnostic, what's the right word? If you genuinely are happy to find out it is true or it's not true, and you look at it objectively, that's what I was looking for.
Unbiased, yeah, yeah.
Look at it objectively. Um, yeah, it's hard, but every time in my teenage years and at university, which was a particular bombardment of other worldviews, I had a Muslim a few doors down from me in my halls of residence. So I didn't know much about Islam before I chatted to him. So that was like, whoa, okay, there's this whole new way of thinking about it. But again, teenage years, early adulthood, frequently questioning, is this right? Do I want to believe? But time and time again, I came back to the conclusion that no, the evidence to me is clear, and I'm convinced that Jesus Christ is who he says he is. He's the Son of God, and he's the one and only Savior of the world. And yes, I want to follow him. And
Mm,
that's an ongoing battle. And as I confessed before, frequently question, hang on a minute, have I got this right? But I think that's healthy. And on the subject of science, I struggle to understand scientists that come to any other conclusion. Because for me, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. The more you grow in understanding, say, of the human body, biochemically, how it works, it's just it's so humbling. It's so amazing. It's so detailed. It's so humbling. And the physicist who considers the scale of the universe and has to confess, I don't know if there's anything beyond what we can perceive. This light that's arriving on Earth from millions of years ago that I interpret as or whatever. That through physics and biochemistry, it just seems to me that all points to a God. Some people, as they grow in knowledge, they seem to grow in pride. For me, it forced me to grow in humility. The 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 world in which I see around me, the beauty, the complexity, just the brilliance of it, I think points to an amazing creator God.
mm. Amazing, man. Amazing. And I think the final question, because you've been generous with your time, is uh, where do you think AI fits in with the Bible and God going into the future? Like I said, I've been wrestling through it from a philosophical point of
Mm.
view, but can you see, can you see AI enhancing, uh, the understanding of God? Do you think humans are going to turn more towards God, or how do you see it all coming together?
I was in church yesterday, and I was thinking, oh, we're going to trust AI to just like run the church service. Just ask AI to come up with a sermon on a passage, and we'll just get he can deliver the sermon, and we don't need real musicians, do we? We don't need real people reading the scriptures. So you know what? And that was a horrible thought to
Mm,
like take the humanity out of leading a church service. Um, but I confess I haven't thought about it too much. Yeah, I think you should go first. Where you at? 'Cause it's a very hard question, and you've already said you've been thinking about it. What do you think there?
No, I mean it's. I think more. I'm thinking from a philosophical point of view of um, almost like the Tower of Babel, where people are trying to build, become God, really, and it doesn't end well. So I'm kind of thinking from a meaning point of view. I think AI is going to the biggest thing it's going to disrupt, and I've said this to our church is man's sense of meaning. And what I mean by that is people, if we go through a chapter which I'm predicting will happen within the next 5 years of mass job
Mm,
disruption, that people's identity, back to your identity, and I love that start, was another very successful friend of mine in property. His LinkedIn bio, and that is, it's not investor and all, it's father of his kids' names. Family man, that's his thing. But I was like, okay, imagine if 50% of our population doesn't have work. They're all on a universal basic income. What is the meaning of life? Because I believe work was given to us by God to worship Him and, have meaning and stuff. It's a big part of our lives, not the only part. But I think that's going to be the biggest question. And I think this is what we've seen in society right now. As an information increase has happened and we've taken God out of it, people are now getting to the end of information. The Joe Rogans, the Stephen Bartlett's, these are the guys leading thought provokers in our society. And they're getting to the same spot where everyone starts is there God? What do we do with him? Because intelligent people logically are coming to the conclusion there must be something that started this, and there must be hope beyond this. So I think the biggest thing AI is going to cause is a disruption of meaning, and secondly, I said this in our church before the big AI developments last year, is what is reality? Because you already saw it with Claude, recently, not Claude, Grok, with the image generation and, sexual images. And I saw that when we were in Portugal last year. I was like, guys, you're able to create images. That's going to disrupt, like, what is true? Is that CCTV footage true? Can that be admissible in courts? Can courts, have any
that's an
video?
example of what I was talking about. No matter how
Mm.
much you develop technology, the evil human heart seems to find a way. When the internet came, you just think, that's great. Truth will be known now. How
Mm.
could there be misinformation? How could there be lies? Because the whole world can communicate instantly. But
But then humans get
then
involved, and
they
but
find a way.
then what is reality? And I love what you said there. In a service, um, I think we're going to go back to smaller communities and tribes of, you know, this human to human
Mm,
interaction where I know you, you know me. It's There's a longing in our hearts to be more connected. It's interesting because we should be the most connected generation in history, which I think we are in terms of breadth, but depth
mm,
is missing.
mm.
And what I love about, my friends, we go deep, like we talk and we have meaningful conversations. But I don't know. I think that we're going to have interesting times, but I think especially the Christian church and all religions are going to have to grapple with that question of how do you lead your people through this?
Mm.
How do you guide people through a big, big crisis, And uh, it's hard, man, because I visited a friend who lost his job. Um, and I went to his home and it's like, man, he was really struggling mentally, mental health wise. He wasn't in a good place. And I think that's going to be on a mass scale, and how we navigate that.
I mean, biblically, work is a good thing, right?
Mm,
It seems God-given work. Adam and Eve, well, put to work. So work is a good thing. I think it's natural to have it in our lives to give us meaning. But yeah, I guess it's the difference between working for God or just working for yourself. Yeah, when people are, like you say, it's interesting. When
mm.
many people lose their job and they realize they've just been working for themselves and that's been taken away. Yeah, they're gonna be searching for meaning.
Bro, it has been so good to have you on. Anything else you want to cover?
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
I think, time raced on. I enjoyed that. I forgot where I was for a minute. Just chatting
That's
to my
fine.
friend Dylan. That was good. Yeah,
That,
good
that,
fun, good conversation.
that's what it's about, man.
Yeah.
We can talk about your vasectomy next time. And
Good grief,
no,
figure the time. Let's go.
yeah. But no, bro, I really appreciate you coming on. And I think be honest with you, I'd love to, as we navigate this landscape, we're going to have some debates and getting people, especially in this AI sector, blockchain,
Mm,
to help people navigate this as we build our audience. We're hoping to give a ton of value, and
mm.
I trust you, and I think you're a great person, and
Yeah, happy to
yeah.
keep that conversation going. I should ask though, in terms of church, have you began to see any uptick in interest in Christianity? I'm thinking of the Quiet Revival that was published
Mm,
maybe a few months ago.
mm.
Have you seen that? I just wonder whether that's the very beginnings of what you're describing, of what you're expecting of people.
The, the quiet revival, for those that don't know, was a thing about like Gen Z and millennials, I think, coming to Jesus and um, filling up again and whatever. I personally, when that came out, I want to look at the stats on that,
Mm.
because yes, to answer your question, yes, we have seen more people interested, more people coming guests, like the church is filling up. Um, we're having to go to, well, we got to figure it out now what we're going to do, young adults and that. But what that report made it sound like when I read it was, people is, becoming Christian, coming to faith and all of this. I said, who is that? Because a lot of the churches I'm seeing are filled with foreign immigration, i.e., they've met Jesus outside of the country and they're moving
Okay.
here and are bringing their Christianity with them or their faith. So Brazil or South Africa or, whatever. So what I'm interested in is knowing in British, the British population, what's going
Sure.
on there. And we're starting to see more of it, but not on the scale that I think the country needs or that report. Because a lot of the kids I talk to, and I ask our young people, I learn from young people all the time, is I ask our 16-year-olds, hey, how many Christians are in your class? They're the only one,
Mm.
most of the time. Maybe two, and normally it's a bit mediocre. And normally the friend will be, you get a lot of Ghanaian Christians here. You get Nigeria, a big Christian population, South Africa, like I say. And I just think, yeah, I'm encouraged, but also, longing for more, And yourself, have you seen that in your guys' church?
A trickle, perhaps. Yeah, perhaps
Mm,
people in their 20s. Some people who perhaps did Sunday school when they were a kid, disillusioned with, I guess, with life recently, and sort of on their own initiative, yeah, just wandered back to find a church to ask that question. Yeah, is there a God? Again,
mm,
once more.
mm. Well, I encourage people watching this, ask the question.
Yes.
That's all I say to people. I'm like, what do you have to lose by asking the question? But like you say, that the two things you said, I think to leave people with is, when you're a teenager, is
Mm.
what is, what do you say?
Is
Is there truth?
is it true?
Is it
Is
true?
Jesus really the Son of God? Sounds like a
Yeah.
crazy claim. Is it
Mm-hmm.
true? And secondly, do I want to follow?
Mm,
Theoretically, you could conclude that Jesus is the Son of God.
mm,
He is the God that created this whole world and you, and he's in complete power and complete control, and he's offering you a free gift of eternal life. You can still choose, and God will let you, if the Bible believed. You can still choose to not want to follow him. So, yeah, they're the two biggest questions you can find the answer to in life, I believe.
No, that's amazing, Paul. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm not crying.
You got Well, I didn't realize what I said was so stirring to bring you to tears like that.
It's a great way to close it, eh? Just zoom in on the tears. No, mate. I really appreciate you, man. And genuinely, your friendship's really valued.
Yeah.
Back to Amsterdam, one of the best trips of my life, and yeah, I look forward to journeying some more and seeing what it
Great
has.
talking to you, Dylan. Yep.
Yeah, man, we look forward to having you back on again soon.
Thank you.